Gavelaw. Getting sued for a debt you didn't create, signed for, or even know about, that's the kind of legal nightmare that keeps people up at night. And if you're broke and facing it alone, the panic is real. But here's the good news. You likely have strong legal protections, and we're going to walk through exactly what they are. Let's start with the fundamental principle of American debt law. In the United States, you are not responsible for someone else's debts just because you're related to them. Not your spouse's debts unless you co-signed, not your parents' debts unless you co-signed, and definitely not your great-uncle's debts when you've never even met him. When someone dies, their estate, that's all the stuff they owned and all the debts they owed, is handled through probate court in the state where they died. In this case, that's Florida, where your great-uncle passed away. The proper way to collect a deceased person's debt is to file a claim against their estate. The creditor has to go through that formal process, not sue random family members. So here's your father's legal position. Under Michigan law, where your father lives, he has no liability for this debt. And under Florida law, where the debt originated, creditors cannot simply sue family members for a deceased person's obligations. There's a concept called no liability for another's debt that runs through virtually every state's laws. Now, the creditor is suing anyway. This is actually a violation of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, which is federal law. Under 15 U.S.C. Section 1692, it is illegal for a debt collector to collect a debt that is not owed. If your father can show he had no legal responsibility for this debt, and he almost certainly can, this lawsuit should be dismissed. Here's what your father needs to do. First, he needs to respond to the lawsuit. Do not ignore it. You typically have 20 to 30 days to respond after being served. Missing that deadline is catastrophic. If you don't respond, the court can enter a default judgment against you, and then the creditor can garnish wages or freeze bank accounts. Second, your father should file a motion to dismiss. The grounds are that he has no legal connection to this debt, and that the proper remedy is a claim against the Florida estate, not a lawsuit against him. Third, if your father genuinely cannot afford an attorney, many law schools operate free legal clinics, and local bar associations often have referral services for low-cost or pro bono help. In Michigan, contact the State Bar of Michigan for resources. Fourth, your father can also file a counterclaim under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. If a creditor or collector is suing him for a debt he doesn't owe, that's a violation, and he may be entitled to damages. Finally, document everything. Keep all letters, emails, and court papers. If the debt collector has called, written, or